It's the McShay Show, presented by FanDuel. The NFL Draft is right around the corner, and FanDuel is the best place to get in on all the action. The app is safe, secure, and easy to use. FanDuel always has exclusive offers. When you win, you'll get paid instantly. And FanDuel has a lot of ways to bet the draft, with loads more coming between now and the first pick. So download the FanDuel Sportsbook app today and make every moment more during the NFL Draft. Must be 21 and older and present in select states. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Geno Smith to the Raiders, DK Metcalf to the Steelers, Myles Garrett's back in Cleveland, and the Patriots making a lot of moves too. As our guy Connor Nevins says, let's dig into the organizational IQ as it pertains to all these moves and the effects it will have on the NFL Draft. Plus, I've got some interesting nuggets I want to go through with this year's linebackers class. And Mensch, I'm sure you get some hot takes on something else too.
Always.
Just 45 days until the NFL Draft. Mensch, you good?
I'm good, man.
Roll it. Coming on air right now, just full transparency. It is 2:19 p.m. Eastern time on Monday, and was getting ready to talk about maybe the Patriots could go Mason Graham, defensive tackle, with that number 4 overall pick, and it just pops up on the screen. Milton Williams, the most coveted defensive tackle, interior defensive lineman in free agency, signed by the New England Patriots. We got a lot to get to. I mean, I'm sitting here watching tape. I'm figuring out our board. We got a top 100 coming out on Thursday, okay? Follow with me here. Top 100 on Thursday. Today, we're going to go through a lot of the free agent moves. We got to get into like what the mindset is, as Connor says, the organizational IQ, really contextualize some of this stuff as it pertains to all this roster building, and specifically what we spend a vast majority of our year doing on the NFL Draft. Thursday, as I said, top 100. I'm going to release that top 100 board. I've already kind of leaked the top 32. Some tweaks already being made there. So that's going to be a big one for us. It kind of sets the board for the next few weeks, and it allows us to dig into free agency and also continue our draft evaluations. Then next week, we're going to have a lot to get to. Free agency starts on Wednesday at 4 p.m., folks. The NFL New Year. On next Monday, as our shows always, I'll remind everyone, Monday afternoon, Thursday morning, okay? So next Monday, we'll get into all the free agency stuff and everything that Mensch and I are going through on our evaluations and keep you up to date on our process. As we promised when we started the show October 22nd, 2024, we're going to, for the first time in our careers, be able to talk to you, the audience, and be able to explain our process. And we're going to keep walking you through where we are at every step. So next Monday, it's going to be where we are in the evaluations, what positions we're still working on, grinding away to try to get this draft book, if you will, done by the first week in April. And then on Thursday, mock 2.0. That's a big one, Mensch. We had to wait. I wanted to do it this week, but that's because I'm stupid. And I've always had good producers and people around me telling me what fires to walk into and what fires to walk around. And right. So why I could have literally done a mock draft last night, and now all of a sudden Geno Smith is
you would be pulling your hair out right now.
Yeah, Geno's in Vegas. DK Metcalf's in Pittsburgh. Milton Williams is in New England. I would have had Mason Graham going there.
Right.
So wisely, Connor and Dan and Tucker and the crew told me, hey, slow down, big fella, slow down. Let's release it next Thursday. That'll give us some time. That'll give us a full week of free agency. And at that point, yeah, that second tier and second wave of free agents comes through. But at that point, we'll have a really good feel of where the biggest names have gone or are set to go. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. We appreciate the support. I always beg. Mensch, why don't you beg this time?
Listen, whatever it takes. If you like us, please hit the submit button, the like button, and the subscribe button. And if you don't, but you want to take pity on us, please do the same. So
That's well said.
That was not the smoothest ever.
No,
I'll work
it
on
wasn't
that, but
smooth, but it was
yeah.
well said when you finally got it out.
It was
All right,
genuine,
my man.
right?
It was genuine. I appreciate
Work
that.
on that sales pitch.
Where do you want to start? There's so much.
I
Let's
keep
start with
looking up to see
let's
what's
start with
happening next.
yeah. Keep an eye on it
I
for
know.
us.
I'm
I don't
trying,
have the
man.
TV on. I'm trying to focus. I'm trying to, captain the ship a little bit. Let's start with Geno, because I think there's to me, Geno Smith leaving Seattle, going to Las Vegas, Pete Carroll, and obviously Tom Brady with minority ownership, but a huge hand in all of this. Let's start with Geno there, and we can work our way back to Seattle. We can talk about DK Metcalf. We can talk about Myles Garrett. We'll talk about the Jets, what they're looking at quarterback. We're going to talk about Pittsburgh, their new wide receiver room, what their quarterback situation and interests are. New England, a flurry of moves. Harold Landry, Morgan Moses, Milton Williams, Carlton Davis. That team's getting pretty good. And Tucker just told me right now. Tucker, you son of a gun.
We're just getting bombs.
Yeah, 2 Tucker bombs. That's a new thing. Tucker bombs.
Tucker bombs, yes.
2 Tucker bombs right now. Darnold to Seattle is confirmed. And I wrote an entire article today about how I knew that was the plan. If you, by the way, the McShay report, appreciate your support. Google it, please. Just the McShay report, and you'll see. We're doing, some of them are free, some of them are paid. I get it. Yell at me all you want. Yell at Mensch. Here's the deal. A lot of people are signing up. A lot of people that I appreciate are chipping in $4 to get through this draft. A whole lot of people are chipping in $36, doubling down to get through this year's draft, all of next season, our complete off season as we start preparing the top 150 for next year's draft, and the entire 2026 draft. Choose as you may. You can subscribe and just get the free stuff. And today you got some gold, because we talked about Geno, the why. We talked about John Schneider, the why. And I told you, if you got it this morning at 9 a.m., I told you that Sam Darnold's the why behind letting Geno go. So let's get into all this stuff now. But again, appreciate your support. Please just subscribe. Check it out for free. See if you like it. If you do, chip in $4 to 36 for next year's draft. Google the McShay report. All right, now I feel like we got a lot. And also the other Tuck bomb. 3 years, $110 million for Milton Williams to New England. They've got money, they've got money just flowing out of Gillette Stadium right now.
I wasn't sure they were going to spend it though, and they're getting out of the gate, man.
Wanted to spend it. I was starting to worry for, if you're a Patriots fan, are they going to be able to spend it on the right assets? Because it seems like some of the big names want warmer weather, better contender. And we'll get to DK.
Less taxes.
If your thing was warm weather and contender, you're now going to a place arguably similar weather, Pittsburgh versus Foxborough, Massachusetts. And you're also going to a place, they're more of a contender in Pittsburgh. There's no question about it. They don't have a quarterback.
Yeah.
We'll get to all that.
Not yet.
3 Tuck bomb. We need some music. Maybe we'll put it in post. If you hear music, it means we didn't have it when we tape this thing, and it's going to go live in just a couple hours. 3 years, $110 million for Sam Darnold. Let's go there.
Okay.
We'll get back
Let's
go
there. It's going to be like this today, right?
It's just going to be like that. And I love it. I love the energy. I love the feel. It reminds me of being on with like Mike and Mike years ago, and like I'd be on with Greeny and Golick, and Greeny was all like, everything was so urgent because the news and the trickle down effects, and I loved it. I love the feel, and that's how it feels today. All right, Geno Smith, John Schneider. I've known John Schneider for about 20 years now. Okay, worked with Jim Nagy, our good friend, who we worked with early in our careers. They started out in Green Bay. Okay, that's where they became friends. I met John through Jim Nagy, and have known him ever since. Have a great deal of respect. I could separate. I mean, we're not best of friends. I'm not like, it's not like Joe Douglas. I didn't go to college. I know John. I've studied John just like I study a lot of these other guys, the general managers in the NFL, and I have a great deal of respect for him because of his emphasis coming from that Green Bay organization on building an organization, building a roster through the draft, plucking free agents where you need them. I think he's taken the Green Bay model and advanced it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I go back to what made Seattle, that Super Bowl run. They had the Super Bowl back in 2013. If you go back and look at it, I go back to when he came on in 2010, what he was able to build. If you go back and study it, 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, he had 9 draft picks in 2010, 9 draft picks in 2011, 11, I think it was, in 2012, and 10 in 2013. It was something like that.
Wow.
In his entire career there, and it's been now, 15 years or so, decade and a half, he has only had 1 year where he had fewer than 8 draft picks. Like most GMs, a believer in the currency. More picks is usually better than the higher picks, And so he built that organization, and he built the Super Bowl championship with the NFL draft. Okay. And so the moves he's made have signaled to me, and it should be stated, Geno Smith, they offered him a contract. I don't know the exact details. There's reports out there. Could have been a couple years, 3 years. My understanding is it was not even countered. Okay. I think Geno loves Seattle, did a lot of great things in Seattle, but Geno saw an opportunity to go work again with Pete Carroll. Tom Brady, I'm sure, had a say in all of that, and we'll get to the Geno Smith Raiders aspect of it. But John Schneider did this after making an attempt to bring back Geno, who's vastly underrated as a quarterback.
Right.
After making that attempt, it was, okay, let's save $31 million on the cap. Let's free it up. Cap space and looking forward to the position. Geno's, I think, kind of criminally undervalued. That is one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL. If you go by some analytics or ranks, it's around 30. I think just eyeball test and watching and studying, it's in the bottom 5 in the NFL. And so to put up 4,000 yards or 8,000 yards, I should say, the last 2 years combined, and 42 touchdowns, and to have a better than 2-to-1 touchdown interception ratio with that offensive line is pretty damn good.
Yeah.
But Geno exits, and we'll get back to Geno. Now you've freed up $31 million. Now DK Metcalf exits, goes to Pittsburgh, and we'll get to that situation with the Steelers. I looked at this and said, all right, what's John up to? And I haven't talked to him about this, but what's John up to, right?
There's a lot of math involved right now.
Because, yeah, I know. But freeing up, let's just put it this, freeing up a lot of money, and in return, losing, and they let Tyler Lockett go too.
Yeah.
So now you've lost 2 key pieces, 2 of your 3 receivers, and your starting quarterback. So it's like, if you're a Seahawks fan, you're like, holy shit, the sky is falling. Are we totally rebuilding? And the answer is no. The answer is this is smart roster management. And I think John's going back. And I'll be interested when I talk to him, and I'll be interested to see what he's saying. I think John's going back and looking at this and saying, you know what? We built this thing from scratch back in 2010 to 2013. And I'm not looking at a 3-year rebuild, but it may take 1 year of winning, but maybe it's 8, 9, 10 wins this year for the following year. Maybe that's what it requires. But I'm going to load up on draft picks. And I'm going to do so in the middle rounds, where this year's class, because of COVID, NIL, transfer portal, all 3 of those things, like the perfect storm. You lived up in Gloucester for a while, Gloucester, Massachusetts, the perfect storm. Remember that storm growing up?
Yeah.
It was a monster, because there were 3 different factors that created the perfect storm. Well, those three factors create the perfect storm for this year's draft class, right?
Mhm.
And while it's not great at the top, talk to any decision maker, anyone in the NFL, my goodness, it's deep. Remember talking to a couple of our guys in Mobile? What do they say about Ole Miss?
Loaded.
But also that normally it's like 12, 13, 14 guys in the summer,
50,
right?
yeah, 45, 50 guys, yeah, that they were
And,
going in and looking at.
and 30 that they expected to be in this year's draft.
Yeah.
And so you're almost doubling the quantity. And so
Mhm.
that's going to lead to a very deep class. It may not be the talent level at the top, but this year's class is loaded. Rounds 2, 3, 4, and I would say even into 5. Well, so what has he done? He's got 5 picks now in the top 100. Right?
Yeah.
5 picks. Pick 18 overall in the first, 2 picks in the second, 50 and 52, 2 picks in the third, 82 and 92. So 5 picks in the top, 92. Yes. And I believe it's 9 picks overall. We can update that, but I believe it's 9 picks overall. It's the same guy, John Schneider, who drafted 8 Pro Bowlers over his first 3 drafts. Remember those numbers? It was like 9, 9, and 10 or 11 the next year. Loading up on draft picks. That's what he's doing again.
I get it.
Okay, go ahead.
But you spent all this money on Darnold, and you already hit on it. No Lockett, no Metcalf. You got JSN, and then I don't know. I don't really know. And so you're hoping that you're going to bring in these receivers and they're going to hit the ground running, which they could. You're going to get some good receivers in that range if you want to take a receiver in the second round. I think they can get a pretty good receiver there. Then you got 2. I mean, Sam Darnold had some weapons in Minnesota, right? I'm pretty sure he had some guys to throw to. And I know he had that great year, and then the wheels kind of came off on the end.
JJ Addison, yeah.
If I'm pessimistic Steve or whatever you call me. I'm a little nervous.
Steve.
Yeah, cynical Steve. I'm a little nervous if I'm a Seahawks fan. I think they have every right to be a little bit nervous. I mean, Minnesota, I think they would have brought back Darnold for the right number and all that. But the way that ended wasn't great. Now he's going somewhere where I don't know what the weapons are. We'll see. He's going to get some. And in Schneider, we trust. I get all of that. But today, I'm wondering what that fan base, how excited they are about Darnold. Now, I will say this, the same thing about what Schneider did with the draft. He also brought in a guy in Geno Smith who, is a former first-round pick that a lot of people had kind of given up on. And Darnold's kind of had a similar path, and a guy that, had a rough start where he started and has kind of resurrected his career, and you're getting younger there. So they've shown that they can do this.
That's the whole thing, though.
Yeah. I get it. I'm still a little anxious.
Yes. And again, like I believe in Geno Smith. I'm in the camp of Geno Smith. I truly I think he is one of the more underrated quarterbacks in the league. I'm not saying he's top 5, top 7 in the league, but I'm saying he's in the top 10, somewhere in that range. And I think most people would look at him and be like, yeah, he's middle of the pack. I think he's better than that.
Right.
Sam Darnold played like one of the top 5, 6 quarterbacks in the league last year until the last couple of weeks. And is that a factor? Yeah. And that's probably why he didn't get $45 million a year. In this deal, he gets 36, just shy of $37 million per year. Okay.
Good for him.
But here's the deal, bud. If you're reloading, not rebuilding, not scrap metal and all that stuff, but if you're reloading with an eye probably for 2026, you went from 34 years old to 27 years old.
I love that part of it.
Sam Darnold's been in the league forever. Right. He's been with 95 different teams. He's only 27.
I know. It's a good point because I'm not sure people realize that when they look at how he's bounced around. He's a young cat, man, for a quarterback with that much experience.
And despite the last 2 games, he's coming off a year with a lot of confidence. He now knows he's one of the guys. Mm-hmm. And so he comes in here with a fresh start, and he doesn't have the same wide receivers. Agreed. But now he's got his home. This is it for the long term. That was always, I'm here. I've got 1 year to prove it. And then they just drafted JJ McCarthy. Right? So now he's got his home. I think the critical thing too is there was a plan A, and that was Sam Darnold. When they let Geno go, the plan A was Sam Darnold. I know that.
Yeah.
And they just executed it. And I wrote it this morning. It came out at 9 a.m. I actually wrote it last night with Dan. Dan was up real late last night, and I appreciate you, Dan. I know you're sitting right behind the wall right now. But like, and I'm sitting in my bedroom on a chair, coming back from going down to the Cape and a bunch of stuff and getting back late at night. And I'm like, we got to go through the Schneider stuff. We got like, this is what's happening. Okay. And so that was out there this morning. We put that out in the McShay report this morning. And so plan A was executed. That's a relief because plan B was maybe Aaron Rodgers or like a stopgap 1 year guy, which means you were back in the quarterback market. And I wrote about that too in the McShay report because it isn't going to be Cam Ward. It's probably not going to be Shedeur Sanders. So now we're talking about some of the second tier guys. Is Jackson Dart available? Is he a guy that you want? So plan B had multiple facets. It had two facets. Sam Darnold tears up any quarterback need you have.
Yes.
Remember, they brought in Sam Howell, right? So they have a very competent backup, and now they've got their starter for the next minimum 3 years in Sam Darnold. So now it's like all systems go. So let's advance it.
Okay.
What do the Seahawks need? Wide receiver, obviously.
Right.
They pick at 18. Matthew Golden would be a great addition.
Would love to see that.
And now you got JSN, Jackson Smith and Jigba, and Matthew Golden.
Mm-hmm.
And who knows? Maybe it's Ted McMillan. Maybe they like him. Maybe John likes him more than I do.
As a big body guy, kind of compliments Jason a little bit more. Yeah.
Now you got an X to compliment JSN.
Yep.
But it doesn't have to be there because we just told you they've got one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL.
Right.
So it could be Tyler Booker, the guard from Alabama. It could be Kelvin Banks, the tackle from Texas.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Because
they have some options.
Because Abram Lucas and Charles Cross are free agents next year. So maybe it's draft a tackle, kick him into guard for a year, bump him out to tackle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think an 18 is kind of the sweet spot for this offensive line. Remember, people I talked to in the league kept telling me Tyler Booker, two things with Tyler Booker, the Alabama guard. Highest character player in this draft, and he's going a lot higher than you think. I thought he was going to go, mid-first, kind of like that 15 to 23 range. So maybe he's not there at 18.
Tucker bomb.
Oh no, what?
Tucker bomb.
What did I tell you? What did I tell you right before we came on?
You have called all of these correctly so far.
I told you and Connor and Dan and Eduardo and everyone else who's on our call, and Tucker, who's just dropping bombs today. Schefter better watch out. We got a new sheriff in town. Meanwhile, he's just reporting everything he reads from Schefter.
Good Schefter, you reported, yeah.
But $30 million guaranteed, Justin Fields 2-year deal, $40 million deal, but 30 guaranteed. Okay. I said before we came on, I have a source that
quarterback
that I felt strongly that I said what I said to the group before we came on was I don't know if they're going to get a deal done, but I know Justin Fields apparently is in Dubai. And I also know that there actually is real interest there. So whether a deal gets done or not, Pittsburgh's still in play, but I can confirm that that there's interest. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Fascinating. It's moving
Fascinating.
It's moving fast.
Also, kind of suggests that these teams don't love the top of the quarterback market. Outside of maybe, I mean, they may all love Cam Ward, but they might feel like we're not getting Cam Ward. So, and they might, and that clearly after Shedeur, because Shedeur might be gone by those time those guys picked anyways too. So they're going out and being aggressive about getting.
And maybe the love isn't there for Shedeur.
Maybe. Listen, his tape in 2023 is better than his 2024 tape, and I keep going back to that. I really like the player I saw in 2023 a lot more than the player I saw in 2024. Just going to be upfront about that. So we'll see. It only takes one team. We say that all the time, but
I don't know if I completely agree with that. I will say this. I thought, let's take, I think we're going to have a quarterback discussion.
We'll get
I
into
believe it starts maybe next Monday. We're going to do a series where we actually dive deep into all the positions and kind of go through what we've watched for 15 months now and how but I will say this: the highs were really high this year. The lows were frustratingly low because there's some things where it's like I thought we were past this. Okay.
Agreed.
Regardless, I totally agree with that assessment, man. This quarterback class is we've known this for months. We've known this since the day that last year's draft wrapped up and we started looking ahead to this year's class.
Mm-hmm.
And then we knew even more so when Carson Beck didn't have the year that we expected him to have. And when Garrett Nussmeier played great in moments, but it didn't sustain it and made the smart decision to go back to school. And now we're looking at Carson Beck and Nussmeier potentially as QB1 next year. So
yeah,
we've known this and we've seen the writing on the wall, but it is fascinating because remember, the Jets pick at 7, the Raiders pick at 6. The Raiders are still in the QB rookie business.
I agree. Yep.
But without the urgency.
Right.
And again, we'll get to all this in a second. Let's finish up on Seattle. It's coming in fast. I love this. So I just mentioned some names. Tyler Booker, guard. Kelvin Banks, Texas tackle. Matthew Golden, Texas wide receiver. Teteroa McMillan, Arizona wide receiver. Pick 18 for Seattle. Those are some spots, some players that I think that they could address with that pick. Day 2, though. Remember, I mentioned they've got 4 picks on day 2. What was it? 50, 52, 82, and 92. I'll throw out some names for you.
Okay.
Offensive tackle. Urshri. Ariante?
Yep. Ariante.
From Minnesota. William and Mary.
Intriguing.
William and Mary, developmental prospect, a lot of athleticism. When you got 2 tackles that are up for free agency a year from now and have not played to the level that you expected with the draft picks you used on them, I think a developmental guy like Charles Grant from William and Mary on day 2 could be a name
more than second round for me, but yeah.
I totally agree.
Okay.
I can't pronounce his name. Arizona guard, Jonah
Savanea.
Sacramento State guard, Jackson Slater. I mean, if you're casual fan, like you're not going to know these names, but all these guys are if you're a day 2 offensive lineman, there's obviously talent there. I think the best center in this year's class, Jared Wilson. They could legitimately spend 3 of those 5 picks in the top 100 on the offensive line. They need upgrade at guard, upgrade at center, and they need a contingency plan / competition looking towards the future at offensive tackle. So that to me, go ahead.
I don't see them doing. They're going to need They're going to need a tight end. I think they're going to need another pass catcher. I think they need to go out and get.
Well, you got Trey Harris in round 2. Yeah. Jalen Royals from Utah State.
So do you take 2 receivers they're probably going to take 2 receivers or a receiver
in the draft. I could see them taking 2 receivers. I could see them taking 2 to 3 offensive linemen. That still leaves them with 4 or 5 other picks.
If you got Golden at 18 and you got Harris in the 2nd, I am fired up, man. I am fired up about that receiving group.
All right, well, let's switch over to Geno then. That's the plan, though, for Schneider. And the biggest key was to not have to be in the quarterback market for a second-tier quarterback while you sat for a year with an Aaron Rodgers, coming in and all the stuff that comes with Aaron and all the media hype and knowing like you're gambling on 1 year with the Achilles, first year back at 42 or whatever the age will be next year, that he's going to be able to rekindle some of the magic.
You're not ready to bring Russ back?
Danger Russ. So Geno Smith, Raiders, I already told you, vastly underrated. Why though? Why is the question. My answer is it totally fits. Pete Carroll's not a spring chicken. Pete Carroll's not interested in some like 3-year rebuild. Pete Carroll is going to look at this year and this organization as we're going to build a culture. We're going to get our schemes in place, and we need a quarterback who's going to be there and can win games for us. We're going to protect him better, and we'll get to how they do that. We're going to protect him better than he was protected in Seattle. We don't have the weapons he had in Seattle, but we're going to try to upgrade that. And we're going to be a damn good defensive football team. They were pretty good last year on defense, a little bit better than middle of the pack. Okay. And so let's do some winning. Let's finally start winning again in Las Vegas with the Raiders. And then in 2026, let's actually make a run. I think that's kind of the mindset. They're Super Bowl or bust in 2025. I get it. It's everyone's mantra. But behind closed doors, when they have these meetings for the Raiders, it's like, we need to start winning. We need to build a culture. We need to know this is a destination. This is a place you come to win football.
Yeah. It's a Seattle model, right? You have a steady hand at quarterback who can, executes the offense at a high level, but is maybe not the best quarterback in the league. And then you have that great defense. It's a Seattle model in my mind.
Yeah.
Their defensive line with they just paid, why am I
Max
not
Crosby?
His name? Yeah, they just paid Crosby what he should have been paid. He's unbelievable.
What he deserved.
They brought in Christian Wilkins last year. I mean, that defensive line is legit, man. I mean, they're going to build that defensive line. They'll play that scheme. They'll get the right guys on the back end to play that scheme, and then you have that steady-handed quarterback.
But unlike the Seattle situation, where I just told you, Schneider
I'm talking
was
about
able
the old when Carroll was in Seattle situation.
Right. I'm saying unlike the current Seattle situation, where we just walked through how Sam Darnold at 27 years old puts an end to any talk and thought process on needing to draft a quarterback in the first 2 days of this year's draft, right?
Right.
That's not the deal for the Raiders. I don't see them at pick number 6, and let's get into pick number 6 in a minute. I don't see them at pick number 6 having interest in a quarterback, even if Shador's there.
Okay. It makes sense to me. I think when you make this move, you basically said you're declaring you're making a different pick at 6 than quarterback.
Yes and no. I don't know that you definitively are. If the guy that they're in love with is there, I think you would take him because Geno's 34. And this is the factor in it. I truly believe Tom Brady is on like one of his many things that he's doing post-retirement. Broadcasting, minority ownership, but with a heavy hand in it. Noble, by the way, Noble, he's a sponsor for Noble.
Okay.
They sent me some gear. They've sponsored a couple of our episodes.
Nice.
That's that hoodie I wore the other day. Oh. They sent me some sneaker. We need to get Mensch some gear. Let's get the big fella some Noble gear. It is Noble. I love it. I'd never worn it before. I absolutely love it. But he's got the TB12 nutrition. He's part of that group. So he's doing a lot of different things, obviously. But he's definitely one of his, I don't know, I'm striking on the word, but one of his missions with it, passion projects is the quarterback development. Mm-hmm. It drives him crazy. And I think that comes from the broadcasting, from watching tape, seeing other places in the league, seeing some young quarterbacks get thrown in the fire who are not being developed properly. We can have a whole show on it, and I'm sure we will in the offseason. Now's not the time. He's committed to that. And so if you're going to go on all these different shows and wearing the No Bull t-shirt and repping and sponsoring, but also with utilizing the platform to drive that home, you got to walk the walk too.
Yeah. And
so walking the walk is, we just brought in a 34-year-old quarterback. This is a perfect opportunity. It's not going to be Shador.
It's not. Cam Ward's not going to be there. I mean, is there a guy?
Cam Ward's not going to be there at 6. And
so is there a guy that you think they could be in love with at 6 that they would maybe take there?
No.
Okay.
I just want to get it out there. I believe through information I've gotten, I don't think that it's going to be a marriage between, and I thought for a while it might be because he was a mentor and he is a mentor, however that works. And maybe I'm dead wrong, but I'm just reading some of the tea leaves. I don't know that Shador at 6 is going to be the answer. I don't think there's going to be a marriage there. We'll see what happens.
But they're still going to get one.
But it's kind of like when I told you, I think Justin Fields is real to the Jets. And plan A is Sam Darnold. So I'm pausing on this to let it soak in. I don't think Shador is going to 6 to the Raiders. So advance that. Round 2, right? They pick at what? 42? I've got it right here. 40. The Raiders are at 40. No, sorry, 37. So the 37th overall pick. Do they move back into the first to get a Jackson Dart? Probably not, because they want to start doing some winning. Is it Tyler Shuck there? Or the name that I was told when I was at the combine, and it doesn't take a super sleuth to figure this out. But like it was kind of driven home, like keep an eye on Will Howard, Raiders. Keep an eye on that. And it just makes sense. And these conversations I was having, they're not like earth shattering, but to hear it from people who are talking to people who, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That thing's real. And the way it was explained to me was, again, I could have figured it out on my own and had my own theories on it, but the way it was driven home was go check out 2022 tape, 2023 tape at Kansas State for Will Howard. Then watch 2024. Then really watch the last like 3-4 games after Michigan.
He had an unbelievable run in the playoff, man.
So if I'm Chip Kelly, I'm like, hey guys, in round 3, or let's identify where it is that hot spot is, because they might be higher on Will than some other teams. So if it's trading back in a late 2, if it's staying home in the 3rd round, wherever that is, if he's available, my understanding from talking to people in the league is look at what we were able to do with him in less than a year. And look at where he got anticipating throws. Yeah, he had, best wide receivers in the country. Yes, best supporting cast and football team in the country. No question about it. But he came a long way. He's mature. He's been through wars. And most of this was repeated to me over and over again. They trust him. Chip absolutely trusts this young man. And there's a relationship there. The verbiage is the same. So you pick up like running, you know.
Right. Yeah, you hit the ground running.
Hit the ground running.
Makes a ton of sense.
So that's fascinating to me. So now we're not looking at that 6th pick. We've got at the quarterback who's got at least 2 years left in him, maybe 3 or 4. And we can develop a quarterback on the back end. And if Will comes in, or Tyler Shuck, or whoever it is, if you bring him in as a day 2 pick and you're not paying him any money, and you don't feel like they've advanced far enough, then you go draft one next year.
Yeah.
You know? But Brady's going to, I promise you this, Tom Brady is going to make sure this organization brings in a quarterback that it believes in and develops him behind Geno Smith. That's what this whole thing is all about. Let's do some winning now. Let's build for 2026. But in the meantime, we're bringing in a quarterback to develop properly the way that Tom believes college quarterbacks should be developed to the NFL.
So who are they getting at 6?
Why don't you take us there? I've been talking too much.
I think you had it in the newsletter, Jalen Walker, right? Did you have Jalen Walker? Man, that makes talk about
two guys I put in this, and I want to get your reactions to it. Ashton Jeanty. If they don't go the veteran route with a Najee, and I've heard some rumblings about that, or with the J.K. Dobbins, Jeanty makes a ton of sense. We keep saying he's going in the top 10, but where are we going to fit him in? That makes sense.
I love Ashton Jeanty, man. I just don't.
And Jalen Walker's the other one. So go where you want.
I love Ashton Jeanty. That's early for any running back. Any running back, that's early for me. Whereas Jalen Walker is tailor-made for a Pete Carroll scheme. He is tailor-made to play that Leo that can play on the line, play off the line.
Bruce
It's
Irvin.
just a perfect fit. You put him opposite of Max Crosby, and all of a sudden, I mean, watch out. And then Christian Wilkins on the inside. It's just what we talked about. This is what you want to do, man.
Cliff Averill
You want to
type.
build. You have a steady guy, steady-handed quarterback. That offense moves the ball, scores some points, and then you have that defense, and you have guys that are closers, and you have Crosby as a closer, and then you could potentially have Jalen Walker in that same kind of, man, I just keep thinking about it. You're going to all the attention you're going to have to give Max Crosby, and then you're going to go one-on-one with Jalen Walker on the other side.
So people,
Talent,
just so
fit,
people understand,
need,
they keep going.
it's all
Sorry.
there. It's all there.
Well, the defensive coordinator they retained, Patrick Graham, the Raiders did. Okay.
Yeah.
He got his feet wet with the Patriots. Did a lot of winning
Right.
there. Okay. So hybrid defensive front, 3-4-4-3. So people understand it's not the same scheme. The Legion of Boom, there's not the same scheme by any stretch. With Pete's, it evolved over time where it was more kind of 3-4-4-3 hybrid. But ultimately it was always a hybrid. It was a 4-3 front, but with that Leo who could play a hybrid role.
Yeah.
Okay. And they had different body types and different players and like Clemens.
Right.
And so like, but hybrid is important so you can be multiple and versatile and counter at different fronts and different personnel groupings. Right. And Jalen Walker is the epitome of that.
They might want to do it in different ways, but they're getting the end result's going to be the same about what they want to do in terms of fronts.
Ginty is more of a luxury pick. And I don't know that they're in the luxury business right now. No. But I'll say this. Ginty set the all-time record of PFF for missed forced tackles.
Missed tackles, got 1 billion carries. I love Ginty.
His missed tackles forced percentage was the highest of everyone in the country too. So if you want to play that game, I'll that tic-tac shit, I'll play it back with you. He's 5'8.5", 211 pounds, tightly packed. His contact balance is sensational.
Yeah.
His vision, his acceleration.
To Kamara for good reason, man. Like they are not these big backs. God, they're tough to tackle.
Catches the ball well.
Tackle.
He's not McCaffrey catching the ball, but he catches the ball really well. Exactly. Mm-hmm. Good in pass pro. He can do it all.
Yeah. Love the player. Love the player. Don't know this is the time and the place for it, but I do think it will be in consideration depending on what they're looking for and who's on the board. I think to me, Jalen Walker makes a lot of sense, but this is the first spot that Ginty could come off the board reasonably if it's not a trade, I believe. Right? Yeah. I mean, that's crazy that we're saying that about a running back, but he's that good of a prospect and they have that much of a need. So it does make some sense. Again, I wouldn't do it.
Okay. Let's look at some other things real quick. They need offensive line help.
Mm-hmm.
They need an upgrade. Armand Membu, you're very high on. I'm high on him too.
If I was willing to go at 4, then I'm willing to go at 6. So
right. This would be I think the second most reasonable spot. But Membu could theoretically go New England. We'll get to New England. They a lot of moves today. And Tucker's feeling himself now. He's throwing some beast mode 2.0 with Ginty and Pete Carroll. Okay. I like it. But the Raiders, like, if they bring in Membu, if they draft Membu at number 6, now we get an immediate upgrade over a player they need to upgrade in DJ Glaze at right tackle. So that would make sense. So Jalen Walker would make sense. And then you can get a
pretty good edge and a pretty good running back.
Ginty would make sense. Membu would make sense. And as you've said on this show before a couple times, you're not saying it's not going to happen. You think it's much more likely than just about everybody out there that Travis Hunter's not going in the top 5. You stand by that?
I do, because we go through the scenarios. It's not that I don't think he's a top 5 player in this draft. I think it's the position. I think it's the way. I mean, look, corners I know go top 5. We've seen this before. We've seen 2 corners go in the top 5 in classes. But I just think when you're trying to build a roster, you start inside out. And you're looking at these teams and what they need. And it's offensive lineman, it's quarterback, it's edge. I think it's going to push some of these offensive tackles higher than people think. And I think that you look at that situation, he could fall out of the top 5. It's nothing about the player. It's about the reality. It's not about my top 32, because he's a top 3 player in this draft.
So what about Hunter? What about Hunter if he's still available at 6 is where I'm going with this.
I would.
They need a corner. They need a wide receiver.
You're taking the best available player too.
So now I'm upgrading both positions and hopefully, probably corner a little bit more than wide receiver. Wide receiver maybe whatever it is, 20 to 40 snaps per game, maybe 4 to 5, whatever the touches and snap amount is. But you are upgrading wide receiver with this quarterback you just brought in, and you're upgrading corner, both positions of need.
Don't hate it.
They got options at 6, man. If Hunter's there, that's legit. Ginty feels like a luxury, but it certainly could help. This could be a run first team, Geno play action, right?
Yeah.
Lean on the defense.
Right.
And Jalen Walker fits would be a really unique chess piece for Graham, the defensive coordinator, and Carroll as they kind of merge all their hybrid, 4-3, Leo 3-4. Because he was with the Giants too. Graham is a defensive line coach.
Chip Kelly had some pretty good backs at Ohio State. I mean, he might be interested in getting a guy like that.
He loves running the football.
So
he loves running the football. We saw it.
It's a good spot.
They had Travion Henderson. They went out and spent $1 million or $2 million or whatever the number was in college version of free agency, the transfer portal, to go get Quinshon Judkins. That's how important that position is to Chip and his offense. Right. So there's a lot to think about there. That 6th pick, that could kind of be the swing pick in this draft. We know quarterbacks going 1 or 2. Shador's going to be fascinating. Does he go 3 to the Giants, or does he start to slide? We'll get to New England in a minute. Jacksonville, we feel good. Like they could really use Mason Graham.
Yeah, if he's there.
At 5.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it gets real interesting because now we've got really damn good football players in Ginty, Walker, Membu, and potentially Travis Hunter. Still available, Mensch.
I'm telling you.
I love this. All right. So that's that. So then we get the news that DK Metcalf is gone. And we already kind of talked about that we talked a lot about that from the Seattle angle, but not the Pittsburgh angle.
Right.
Let's talk about it from the DK angle. Because I've told that this is heavily
going through his mind right now.
Agent driven. But also, I just think it's hysterical, right? And maybe the information was incorrect, but a lot of information coming out in the league was it's really important to him. It's not deal breaker, but it's really important to him. Warm weather and contender. And so you started in Houston. I heard that was real, but Houston went and signed Christian Kirk. Well, they couldn't go in that direction financially, or however that played out. Then you heard the Chargers
probably thinking, I already got Nico. I'm not going to invest this much money in.
So it's Nico and Christian Kirk, and obviously now Tank Dell may be out the season.
We'll see.
Brutal. Yeah. But then so DK. So there's a lot of talk here in New England that DK is the guy. Vrabel has been very clear that it's critical for him to have a big physical X wide receiver for a multitude of reasons.
Yeah.
And DK seemed to be the target. And then all of a sudden news breaks. So New England was rumored to be, I'm telling you, a lot of people in the league thought
because
it was
of the money.
Yeah, DK to New England. But then all this information started coming out about warm weather and contender.
Yeah.
And then he chooses Pittsburgh. I'll give you contender.
Yeah.
But you chose, I would argue, Pittsburgh's weather is no better, probably worse than New England.
Yeah.
And number 2, they're not a contender. They weren't a contender 24 hours ago, and they're still not a defined contender. But they may be a playoff contender this year if they keep making moves the way they are, and if they draft well. And you're going to Pittsburgh. They don't have a quarterback.
Right.
They don't have a quarterback.
Yeah, what are you thinking?
You got Drake May. You can,
Anytime Mike Tomlin, as long as Mike Tomlin's the head coach there, I think they're a contender. I just think
they absolutely are.
I just think he's that good of a head coach.
You know how I feel about Mike Tomlin.
But you need a quarterback, man. Like that's obvious, right? Like Mike Tomlin could be.
So let's get into this.
Ever grace the planet, and if he doesn't have a quarterback, I don't know what you're doing.
You don't let Justin Fields go unless you got a plan, and unless you've decided we like Justin, but we're not ready to commit our organization to the Justin Fields show. We gave him an opportunity. Go ahead.
Did they want to have him back and it didn't? They weren't unable to get that deal done. I thought that was the situation. Maybe I'm wrong.
You're not wrong, but I think that they wanted him back at a certain number because maybe they weren't. If they were totally sold that Fields was the guy, they would have stuck with him at quarterback last year. That was
if you're Fields, you're like, hey man, you guys, I was great about it, but you guys went in another direction. Why would I stay here?
I honestly, it's like, I'll have you back, but I want to date other people too.
Yeah.
And Justin's like, no, I'm monogamy, bud. I'm into monogamy. Yeah. And so now he goes to the Jets. But for Pittsburgh, and all these dominoes are falling, but they all correlate. Pittsburgh now has a very interesting wide receiver room.
What do you mean?
But a damn talented wide receiver room.
Yeah.
George Pickens and DK Metcalf. Now, I've heard talks that Pickens may not ultimately wind up being in Pittsburgh. I don't know if any of it's not substantiated. We'll see. But if you got those two guys on the outside, we got to bring in someone who can throw the football. I think it's going to be Aaron Rodgers.
Fascinating.
I think Aaron Rodgers is going to Pittsburgh.
What's the word? Mercurial? That whole team, man. It's a good thing Tomlin is there. If anyone's going to steady,
they will never need Mike Tomlin and his ability to, I don't want to say manage people, but manage situations and deal with stuff and the way he connects with players and the messaging and everything else. If you got DK, Pickens, and Aaron Rodgers, you better have a Mike Tomlin, right? So that's going to be fascinating.
No Hard Knocks this year, right? I think the Hard Knocks thing all got scrapped.
Did it?
That would have been. I thought so because they tried to get Belichick in North Carolina, and that fell through. And then now I think they're having a hard time finding a team after the Giants debacle. A lot going on there, but the offseason Hard Knocks. Tucker's on top of everything, man. No offseason Hard Knocks. I would love that. I mean, the best Hard Knocks ever. Best Hard Knocks ever.
So Pittsburgh now is fascinating because if it all would boil down to Aaron Rodgers, like because you let Justin Fields go, and by let go, I mean if he absolutely was your guy, you would have played him all last season, and if you decided after the fact that he was still your guy, you would have paid him.
Yep.
And while I'm sure they were negotiating, and I don't know the level to which that they wanted him, it makes sense. I like Justin Fields. Like I'd give him a shot, but I'm not banking the whole thing on him. He's had a lot of opportunities, and he's never
has he?
I don't know.
I think Fields got kind of a raw deal after he showed some, not a raw deal. It was the situation that it was. I thought he played well for periods down the stretch before the Bears went and got Caleb Williams. And that was the move they had to make. That was the right move. I think taking Caleb Williams over Justin Fields, but he wasn't like, they had surrounded him with a great offensive line and a great run game in Chicago. And then he gets to Pittsburgh and he plays pretty well and they pull the rug out from under him there too. I don't know. I would love to see what happens if Justin Fields, I think he needs more of a shot, to be honest with you. So I'm intrigued to see what happens with the Jets. I hope the deal is that this is your year, man. You hell or high water, it's yours to figure it out or for you to drown. But that's, I just want to see someone just put their complete faith in him. Because I feel like he did not have a great supporting cast in Chicago. That organizationally, we've talked about it. It was a mess.
I agree.
And then he goes to Pittsburgh and, basically, I know I just talked up Tomlin. I still believe in Tomlin, but everything's falling apart and they don't go back to him. I don't know.
I look at the Steelers now. If they land Aaron Rodgers, it's only 1 year, man. And you can't even count on it being 1 year.
It has to be 1 year.
Right? You can't count on him.
It has to be.
So cornerback is a need.
Mm-hmm.
And I think will be addressed pretty early. But quarterback still
and I think they can get a good one where they're picking 22, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Travis Hunter's going to be off the board. Will Johnson will
gone.
likely be off the board.
Or 21, sorry.
Yeah, 21. They picked 21 and 52 in the first 2 rounds.
Mhm.
Okay. So running backs, they need a running back, but you can get one in round 3.
Yeah,
2
that's
if you
not
have to, but round 3.
not a priority with what they have going on.
Their offensive line they need to address. You know?
Are you targeting a quarterback at 52? Potentially, right?
I don't know what they're going to do. That's going to be interesting. No, honestly,
I think they should draft one.
because you're trying to win now, right?
I know, but you can still try to win now with an.
I think it's one of those. If Tyler Shuck were to fall,
Mm-hmm.
maybe you pull the trigger. I don't know how aggressive they're going to be. Tucker with another bomb. Josh Sweat, Cardinals, 4 years, $76 million. Interesting.
Howie's got work to do in the draft now. I'm sure he doesn't mind.
Yeah,
Just saw Sweat and Williams today.
He warned us. He said it's not going to be pretty,
Yeah.
but he's prepared for this. That's what the last couple drafts have been. Because this is good. And guess what? He's going to draft another defensive lineman early. You know?
Yeah.
I wouldn't be worried. I mean, yeah, you want him back, but I think the writing was on. We kind of knew that was going to happen. You know?
Yeah. Can I give you a name to keep in mind for the Steelers
Pittsburgh
quarterback?
Yeah.
Jalen Milroe. You watch Lamar Jackson tear your team up. I mean, he's had some.
I like that a lot, actually.
You watch Lamar Jackson do his thing, right? And you brought in a guy in Justin Fields who can move, and you kind of,
I like
clearly
that.
To me, yeah. Think about it.
I like that. I like that a
Depending
lot.
on where Jalen Milroe ends up, that's it. I would keep.
It's going to be round 2 just because of his traits, I believe.
I think so too.
52 seems pretty reasonable. So you go get a corner or an offensive lineman with that first pick.
Just keep it in mind.
Yeah, their secondary is where they need help. But yeah. Okay. So now the Jets. Now the Jets.
Yep. What do you got?
How do we feel about Justin Fields? Because you like him. They coveted him. They're picking at 7.
So I'm gonna kind of talk out of both sides of my mouth a little bit here for a second because I'm just gonna reference the Seattle situation and why I was concerned about them getting Darnold. I can be concerned about them getting Darnold and still think that's the right move, right? So I can acknowledge that there should be some anxieties and some worries about Fields as your quarterback. I also think it's the best move they could have made if they weren't going to get Darnold. Now you're looking at a trickle down, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, ideally you would have get Darnold, or you trade for a Geno, right? This is better than sitting there and hoping to get a quarterback at 7, or in my mind, to be honest with you, giving up extra first round picks, which I think it would have taken or could have potentially have taken to move up and get one of the top 2 quarterbacks that maybe you're not in love with. I think going after Fields is a good move. I just do. It's 2 years.
Yeah.
You can draft a guy. You're not locked in long term to this. And again, I think Fields in flashes has been really good. So
you got great running backs.
Great running backs. You got Garrett Wilson.
You got Garrett Wilson. Offensive line. They've drafted. They need Fashanu to step up.
They do.
I think he will. But they still could go offensive tackle. I think I got to see them up close. Like, for as great as the draft picks were, as great as they are on the edge and corner and wide receiver, and Quinn, you got Quinn and Williams, but their interior of they need another defensive tackle, and they need and I think linebacker and safety could be upgraded as well. Safety, so they're picking at 7. They're picking at 7 there. So what's happened now is we've talked for a long time, bud, about maybe 6 teams in the top 10. It started off as 6 teams in the top 10. Now New Orleans isn't going quarterback at 9, is my understanding. Okay.
Okay.
Now the Raiders are going to probably draft a quarterback, but it probably is not going to be at 6. Now the Jets, one of those teams, right? A lot of talk about them trading up. When we're at the combine, there was discussion about them trying to trade up to get ahead of Cleveland. And I don't know if it was real or not, but I'm just saying that it was if it was going to be a quarterback in the top 10, it was going to be Cam Ward. Could they get up there? Were they willing to give away what they needed to get up there to get Cam Ward? Now they're out of the market. So we said this, man. If Cam Ward's going 1 or 2.
Right.
And it doesn't sound like it's like, well, if Cam's gone at 1, Cleveland's going Shador. Maybe they are. It's pretty tight-lipped outside of the Schefter bomb. Cleveland's pretty tight-lipped. But if it ain't the Giants at 3 for Shador, and it very well could be, but if it's not there, as we said before, we're in for a very fascinating first night of the draft for Shador Sanders.
Unfortunately, I hope he goes earlier.
Well, he could go 3.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to watch if that happens, to be honest with you.
And honestly, we talked about 2 teams in the top 10 that I had reports and talked to. Not reports, I talked to. The interviews didn't go as anticipated. Interviews with Shador were different than all the other interviews. The prevailing thought was, didn't get the sense that Shador cared all that much about what we thought of him. Right. Perfectly respectful, nothing, malicious said, no poor actions, no disrespect. But didn't get the sense, like when you're stacking interview after interview after interview, and you're seeing how important this is to everybody else, didn't get that same vibe. And so now we've got 3 of those 6 that we've talked about for a long time, not in the quarterback market. We talk about 6 teams in the top 10 need a quarterback. 3 are, by all intents and purposes, out as far as drafting a quarterback in the top 10. Then there were 3. Tennessee at 1, Cleveland at 2, Giants at 3.
Right. Also,
that's interesting.
And do we get a Penix to Atlantic situation like I mentioned before, where one of these teams comes out of nowhere and is like, Shador's we are great on Shador, like Atlanta's great on Penix was so good that they said to themselves organizationally.
But we know for a fact it's not New England, and
you're right.
And we almost know for a fact it's not Jacksonville. Okay, we know those 2 teams aren't going to be the Atlanta Penix.
I agree. So
is it? It's not Carolina. They started to get the juice out of the squeeze for Bryce Young. They believe he's the guy. They're all fired up.
It may not be in the top 10. It might be.
It could still be 9, and it's certainly not. It could still be 9 with New Orleans, just kind of quiet, and Derek Carr will give him a year.
This guy, yeah.
But it's not the Giants at 10, so it's going to be interesting. But the Jets, they address the need, and they're going to they're going to try to move forward with Justin Fields. That's obvious. And they're not committed long-term. It's not the biggest deal in the world, but it's a good deal. 2 years, $30 million guaranteed for Justin Fields for the Jets. So now the attention is where? The attention for them is, that we mentioned, they sit at 7. Mason Graham, is he still there? Probably not, but certainly would be
nice. Yeah.
Team him up with Quinnen and those edges, right? So that's a possibility. Offensive tackle, Membo, plug him up in opposite Fashanu.
If he's there.
Right. Yeah, if he's there, but also, and if in the off chance Travis Hunter is still there at 7.
One of those tight ends could be the place for one of those tight ends to go, I think. Too.
Great point. That's a great point. That's where I think they wind up.
Yeah, could be one of those.
I think it's Tyler Warren.
Talk about Bowers. All the Bowers talk to the Jets last year.
That was real. I promise you that was real.
Yeah,
it came down. It came down to Bowers and Fashanu.
And obviously, there's a lot of change, and there's been a lot of change, but still, I mean, those guys are super talented. It wouldn't surprise me if one of those tight ends went there.
I totally agree. That would make a lot of sense. So good to talk through it. And then, so that covers. I mean, we didn't even get to Cleveland. We still have time. Hour and 5 minutes in.
Let's go.
I'll tell you one thing we're not getting to is my linebacker tape evaluation.
Nope. My hot take is right out the window.
Table it. I do think we could get into your hot take in a second, but we'll see. Okay. And I despise hot take. Something you're hot on. I like the whole culture of hot takes makes me throw up.
I'm just trying to get likes.
We don't have hot takes. We have stuff that we're hot on because of work that we've done. Not because we sit down and decide we're going to have some take because it's going to get clicks and stuff. It's just not what we're in the business for. So I apologize for getting trapped in that. Cleveland. I think it's a good place to kind of tie this all up before we get to New England. Cleveland extends Myles Garrett. If you want to read the McShay report, I go into a lot of detail about the why. And we don't need to get into that now. Obviously, 14 sacks the last at least 14 sacks in 4 years. Is that right?
I think
first
so.
Player in the NFL to ever do that 4-year span.
Could his agent have played that any better? I mean, it was a masterstroke to get him that contract. I'll never be in a Browns uniform again. Yada yada yada.
$40 million per season. 123.5. As I said, and I go into more detail. So check out the McShay report. Just Google it, and you'll get. This is a free piece that we did on a lot of these moves. Not all of them were done by the time we posted it, but a lot of these moves and what it means for Seattle, for the Raiders, for the Browns, and so on and so forth. You gotta view edge as quarterback on the defense. And while it's never going to raise to that level, it's the second most important position on the field.
Right.
And because edge can affect the other 10, not as much as quarterback can affect the other 10 on the offensive side of the ball, but there's no other position on the defensive side that can affect the other 10 the way that edge does. Cornerback would be number 2. In kind of reverse reasonings. Why, right? Take away a guy. Well, don't need to take away a guy as desperately if we got a running back staying in the chip, a tight end staying in the chip, double teams, shifting protections, like always accounting for number 95. 14 sacks a year. It's almost guaranteed, right?
Yep.
And the pressures and the attention and all that stuff. So
and he plays the run like a maniac too.
Everything. Everything. So now you got the number 2 overall pick. And it was like for Andrew Berry, the general manager, it was always, we got to get this done so that and then shift. The focus was always on quarterback and what's next. But now it's like, the tricky part is for Berry in this organization is you now have to find a way to land the quarterback of your future and to do it on the cheap. Because you are so hamstrung by what has happened at your quarterback position and the decision that was made to pay Deshaun Watson a gross amount of money. Okay.
Oh, yep.
If Deshaun, this is a good football team, man. You got a damn good defense led by the guy you just paid all that money. You've got a pretty decent offensive line. You've got some talent. Okay. You've got some talent when you look across the board. Zadarius Smith to go with Myles Garrett. Okoronkwo. Dalvin Tomlinson. Shelby Harris.
Smith.
Huh? Oh, did
they?
They
cut Zadarius Smith. Yeah.
JOK. Jeremiah Owusu Koromoa. Denzel Ward. Is he coming back? Greg Newsome. Like, this team is talented. Now, running back, what's going to happen with the future there with Ford and Chubb?
I kind of like the receivers, though, man. Cedric Tillman had a decent year last year as a 3rd-round guy.
I like Cedric Tillman.
2 years ago, yeah.
And you've got obviously Amari Cooper and Jerry Jeudy. That's what I'm saying. This team, if you had gotten 50 to 70% of what you signed up for and you paid for Deshaun Watson, this team is like is fighting.
Yeah,
with Kansas City and with Buffalo. I'm telling you, I believe that. Okay. So now what do? Because you're not going to have all this talent for very long. Can you catch lightning in the bottle with Cam Ward? Okay.
And do whatever you take. Go ahead. Sorry. I'm going to say you do whatever it takes to get to the first overall pick and make sure you get Cam Ward, because right now I'm not sleeping thinking about what the Giants are offering. And you don't want to give a lot up to move up one pick, and I get it. But it's turning. The
evaluation process is ongoing, but there's no more tape to evaluate. And yes, you're going to have private workouts. Yes, you're going to watch him throw live. Yes, you're going to bring him into your facility, as all these teams that need a quarterback are going to do with Cam Ward. And I'm talking Tennessee, Cleveland, and the Giants, because he ain't going past 3. Right. And he's almost certainly not going past 2. Could go 1.
I don't think he's going.
So my point is, if you've decided as an organization he's your guy, that's exactly where I was taking this. I'm not letting the Giants move up to 1. I'm not, and just so you understand, Tennessee's not going to swap picks with you if they think he's the guy. So it starts with Tennessee, and I think it's very obvious they're evaluating Cam versus Shedeur. I think that the short list that we talked about, Albert Breer's article was fascinating, like the process where these for the Tennessee Titans, where these people have been before, the decision makers, what their processes have been in the past. Joe Burrow, obviously. So and all those ties. It's a great read.
Yep.
What wasn't surprising in there is the 4 that were mentioned as the possibilities to go number 1 overall. I think of the 4, Shedeur you can cross off. I think it's Cam Ward if they're going quarterback, and then it's Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter. Well, now you've locked in your edge if you're Cleveland. And so if you had to deal Myles Garrett, there was an argument to be made. Well, we're staring at not the next Myles Garrett, but something that is a really good, young, cheap replacement in Abdul Carter. That's no longer a factor. It's all quarterback or bust. And you can't do it in free agency. You can bring in Kirk Cousins, and I've told you this for a month now.
Yep.
Kirk Cousins is the guy I think that they're going to bring in to bridge the gap. And so Cam Ward would have a year, and maybe it's just 6 games, whatever it would be. And if you can get a Russell Wilson type deal for Kirk Cousins, then where you're paying him nothing and the Falcons are footing the bill, then you make that move, because you need a veteran there. You need someone who can help develop. And Kirk Cousins, he wouldn't be thrilled about it, but he's a really good human being, and he'll pass on the knowledge and try to maintain that starting job for a year as he winds down his career. And I know Kirk doesn't want to hear that, but that's where he is. And so the combination of Cam Ward and Kirk Cousins would cost you almost nothing, comparatively speaking. We're talking about Justin Fields, 2 years, $40 million, 30 guaranteed. We're talking Sam Darnold, 3 years, $110 million, $37 million a year, coming off those 2 games that weren't awesome at the end of the year. Could have been so to get $5 million a year or $7 million a year, whatever it averages out to, in a 5-year guaranteed contract of close to $40 million for a top 2 pick. No, for a top 2 pick.
Gotcha.
And then pennies on the dollar because Atlanta's footing the bill. That's a cheap alternative as you try desperately to move past the quarterback spot, but you're quarterback away. So you've got to go, you've got to figure this out. And to your point, you started this and take it. If Tennessee's not taking Cam Ward and you're Andrew Berry, you better go get up to number 1.
Yeah, I think you start with here's our offer, and I don't even know what that market looks like. I don't want to put you on the spot either. Like, what's that going to look like? What exactly are they going to want? Because they know they're holding all the cards, right? So what does that look like? But I think what you do, you start the conversation with here's our offer, but you end that phone call with a very clear statement of whatever the Giants are going to give you, call us back. We'll top it. We will find a way to make it a better deal for you. And there's no, Tennessee doesn't have to do that. But that's what I would say to them. Like, let us know what their final offer is, and we'll make it better for you. And people do this with free agents too, right? Go test the market. The Patriots have done this with players. Go test the market. Tell us what they're willing to offer you. Come back, and if we can top it, we will. Let us know so we have the final offer. We have the final go at it, whatever way you want to word it. That's how I would end that conversation. Like, look, man, let's find a way to get this done. Here's where we're starting. If you don't like that, we understand. The Giants are willing to give more, then let us know, and we're going to come over the top of it.
I think it would probably cost them a 1 next year.
And I think so too, and I think that's like crazy.
What do you mean?
You're talking about to move up 1 spot. And by the way, I think
but to go get the quarter, if you believe,
I would do it.
All right.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I just think this is what we're talking about. We're talking about giving up a first-round pick to move up 1 spot in the draft. And I agree with you. And by the way, the more I watch Cam Ward, the more he grows to me. Do I still think he would have been the 4th quarterback at best taken last year? I do.
It can be both.
He's talented, man. I take a shot on him. Yeah. Some of the tape, I'm like, dude, this is insane. Some of the throws he's making. Like, listen, I would do it.
And you bring in Cousins with Stefanski.
Same plan.
If we got to win a few games early in the year while we're still developing Cam before we think he's ready?
Go get him.
That would
get Cam Ward.
Yeah. The only fly in this ointment should be Tennessee's just staying at 1 and taking Cam Ward.
Yeah. Right.
If it's not the case and you're clean, because think about it, it doesn't matter the amount of picks. You don't have money. So your only currency in this game to get a quarterback, if you're Andrew Berry, your only currency to get a quarterback is through the draft. You can't afford a veteran. You couldn't get in the Sam Darnold sweepstakes. You couldn't afford Justin Fields.
Right.
Because of Deshaun Watson and what he has done to that organization. They're crippled financially. But what they have is that number 2 overall pick. Mm-hmm. And they have picks beyond that are early in each round. And they have picks next year. It's the only way they can solve their quarterback problem.
All right, let's flip the script. Do you take the deal if you're Tennessee?
If I'm not taking Cam Ward, absolutely. I move down 1 spot. I get the same exact player. I get a 1 next year.
So all it matters, if you're in love with Cam Ward and you're Tennessee, you're taking him.
Yes. And if I'm Tennessee, yes. Yes. That doesn't, sorry, I didn't hear your question.
No, that's fine.
The answer is yes. If Cam Ward's the guy when this is done, even if I have equal grades or maybe like a slight notch below, but like if Cam Ward's the guy and we believe in him, you stay at 1 and take him. Piece of cake.
Yeah.
I don't care how much you like Abdul Carter. I don't care how much. If you believe in him and believe that he's going to be the guy, throw out all those other grades and names. But if he's not, then I'll move down to 2 because I'm getting the exact same player at 2 as I was getting at 1. And I'm getting a 1st-round pick next year and maybe a 3rd or a 4th this year.
Yeah, I'm tempted by that.
And if the Giants want to give me more, I'll move down to 3 if I'm equally obsessed or have an somewhat equal grade on Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, or maybe another player that we're not speculating. But if those are the 4 and Shador's out and Cam's out, I'm getting one of those 2. So that's simple to me.
Yeah. And then you're the Giants and you're 1 pick away. You're outside looking in. It's just a brutal situation. It's been a rough go for Giants fans. And it may not be getting better anytime soon.
Yeah. But what if they're in love with Shador?
You're great. Then go for it.
Yeah, rock and roll.
Yeah. Hopefully that's the case.
I could see Jackson Dart or Tyler Shuck with Brian Dable.
That early?
No. I'm not saying that early.
So you're talking about the top of the 2nd.
Or moving back in.
Maybe trade. Yeah, exactly.
Or moving back in. I don't know. I talk to Brian occasionally and have a great deal of respect for Brian. We have obviously not had that conversation by any, and he, and that's Joe Shane and everything else. But I studying what Brian has done, what he's looking for, I could see both of those guys are mobile enough, have the arm. I could just see it. I could see those guys with him and developing.
I agree.
All right, last thing. Patriots fans. Miserable over DK Metcalf not coming. I don't know if that's the worst situation in the world. I don't like quite honestly, that the amount of money it would cost, where they are in their development, we're starting to see them spend good money. I woke up this morning and we saw that Devin Godshaw was out at defensive tackle. And they've got Christian Barmore. Yes, they've got Keon White, who they play outside and in. Former Georgia Tech draft pick. I always liked Keon White. I was hopeful he was going to get to this point.
Oh man, yeah. Good player.
So I was thinking Mason Graham. We started the show off by talking about that, and that was breaking news. Breaking news: Milton Williams signs a 3-year.
I got $26 million a year for 4 years. That's what I got.
4 years. Sorry, I was looking.
Okay.
Tucker's dropped so many bombs on the right side of my private chat here. I don't know which side's up. So 4 years for Milton Williams, the coveted interior defensive lineman. And to get that kind of money with this interior defensive line class coming out in this year's draft tells you how coveted he was. And the Patriots had the money to do it. They capitalized on it. And that's their first major addition. But in addition, even though they got rid of Godshaw, now with Williams, Barmore, Keon White, versatile role, they get some dudes on the interior. I don't want to say it's an absolute, but it's pretty close to an absolute that Mason Graham's not going to be the pick at number 4, which I had in my last mock draft. And I thought when Godshaw got clipped today, I was like, yeah. And Barmore with the blood clots last year, expecting and hoping, obviously, but I can see that need starting to rise. Not the case. So now with New England, they brought in Carlton Davis, cornerback, to go opposite Christian Gonzalez. That's a damn good cornerback tandem, man.
That's a nice pickup, man.
And Carlton Davis will tackle your ass unlike the other guy.
Right.
So now they've gotten more physical. They've got more physical along the interior. Now I said this on my mock draft. And that's why I thought Mason Graham was a strong possibility had they not made this move for Milton Williams. Mike Vrabel, he played with a damn good defensive tackle and saw the effect that Vince Wilfork had.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Simmons in Tennessee.
Pretty damn good player, yeah.
Those guys in the middle, they affect the quarterback. They free things up for linebackers and edge. So I knew that there was going to be a big move to get a difference maker. That's been made. So now Carlton Davis. Also, just before we came on here, Morgan Moses, a right tackle.
Yeah.
34 years old?
Yeah, he's getting up there. I'm
in
not
that
sure
range.
exactly what it is.
So that's not long term. So now you're the Patriots. If you're a Patriots fan listening right now. All right, so what does this mean? We have the number 4 pick. In the second round, we pick at 38. Wide receivers absolutely still position of need, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think interior defensive line is anymore. We just talked about that. Offensive tackle is still a position of need, even with Morgan Moses.
Absolutely.
And
there.
And Harold Landry. We didn't mention that.
Yeah. I love the defensive signings. I love the defensive front signings because one, Landry played for Vrabel in Tennessee, knows the scheme. Again, a guy is going to hit the ground running, knows exactly what's expected of him. They know how to use him. And then Williams versus Godshaw. Godshaw was like a big run stuffer. Good player. Big run stuffer. That's not what New England's going to be. They're going to be a one-gap, aggressive defense. Milton Williams.
That was a scheme. That was a scheme cut as much as it was.
Right. You get more talented, you get a better fit, you feel a need, and you get rid of some money. Like it was. Yeah. I mean, for Patriots fans that have been frustrated for a little while now, today's a good day. Today's a good day.
These are smart moves for
exactly
reasonable money.
Re-signing Austin Hooper on a 1-year deal. Smart. Bring back a depth tight end. They might still go get one, but now they have a guy in place where we don't need to address this right now. If the right player's there and we feel like we can get a playmaker, they'll go do it. Again, smart moves. Like
we always say, the good organizations at least bring in players in free agency and typically second tier for the most part, that second wave that will free them up when it comes to draft weekend to actually take the best player available. And yet skewed by certain positions and positions of priority. And if you have a slightly bigger need and 2 guys with the same grade, you're going to go to that position. I get it. But ultimately, you don't want to go into a draft and be like, damn, man, we got to take this, or else how are we going to line up?
Yeah.
How are we going to protect our quarterback if we don't take a tackle? Well, they just got Morgan Moses.
I think they kind of did that last year, to be honest with you. I think they didn't really have a plan on offensive tackle last year, and it got messy fast. So
now I'm asking you, Pat the Patriot. I see wide receiver. I see offensive tackle, lesser need than it was yesterday, but still a need. I see edge, lesser need than it was yesterday, but still a need. They're picking at 4. Let's assume it's for this exercise. Let's assume I'm going to give you option A, and then you tell me who you would take it for. Then I'm going to give you option B in terms of the first 3 players. Let's go Abdul Carter 1. Okay. This isn't a flash mock, but it's pretty damn close. We're going to get through the top 4. Let's go Abdul Carter 1. Let's go Cam Ward 2 to Cleveland. And at 3, the Giants take Shedeur Sanders in this scenario.
I'll explain why, but I'm going to go Jalen Walker. I think you still need that edge. I think you get another guy there. I want to say Membu. I've said Membu before, but I want to be comfortable. If I know Membu could play left tackle or Morgan Moses can play left tackle, because I believe Morgan Moses plays on the right too. If I know Membu could play left tackle, I'm going to take Membu, because I just think that's how valued that position is. But having those concerns, I'm going to go a little safer and go Jalen Walker and get another guy that can get after the quarterback. But it's either in that scenario,
Travis Hunter
Walker,
and just play him a lot at wide receiver.
No,
I'm just doing devil's advocate, but
no.
Nickel cornerback, which would free him up to play 50 or not 50 in the end of 30.
Not over the
snap at wide receiver, 35.
Not over those 2.
Okay. All right. So you're taking Jalen Walker, the edge out of Georgia, versatile guy for Vrabel, over Membu, the offensive tackle.
Yeah.
I don't know how I could change this. It doesn't change.
Well, here's what
it doesn't change if it goes Abdul, Cam Ward, and Travis Hunter.
Well, how about in this situation, the Giants trade to 1.
Yep.
And they get Ward. The Browns take Sanders, and Tennessee decides to take Hunter. And all of a sudden, the New England Patriots land Abdul Carter at 4.
I can't. I hear you.
But
I feel I can't imagine a world in which Abdul Carter is still on the board at number 4.
I can't. But again, start going through scenarios. We're looking at talent and ability. It's scenarios, man. Like, what are the scenarios here? A lot of people I talk to have a hard time understanding how Travis Hunter is going to get, past pick 2. And maybe that happens. Maybe he doesn't get past pick 2. That's fine. But if 2 quarterbacks end up going if 2 quarterbacks go in the top 3 picks, someone's going to fall.
Yeah.
If 2 go in the top 4 or in the top 3, the Patriots get Hunter or Carter. And that's unthinkable to some people.
This has been a fun show, man. Like, I could do this not all day. I like to eat, move around a little bit, but I could spend a couple more hours doing this. Yeah. Okay. Reminder, Thursday, top 100. I'm back to the tape, sitting right next to me right here. The remote going, trusty old, used to be Exos. Now it's Catapult. I'm going to lock down the top 100. It's going to be pretty close to what the top 100 will be in a month or so, but there's medical, there's some workout stuff. There's a lot of conversations about the character and all that, but top 100 is on Thursday. Next Monday, we're going to do more of this because we'll have had, and by the way, on Thursday, we're going to do more of this too, because free agency will have started at 4:00 the night before. So there will be updated pieces falling and trying to put it all together. Next Monday will be a lot of the fallout of it. And I think we get into either quarterbacks or running backs. We're going to start doing our series of positional deep dives. Okay. I'll have a better name for it when we get there. And then next Thursday's mock 2.0. my goodness, are there changes? And we just kind of previewed what it could be in the top 4 or 5 picks, got all the way down to kind of 7. But let's see what other dominoes fall. Let's see what information I'm getting. Got a bunch of calls to make over the weekend just to kind of catch up with some people and see what they're hearing. And then we'll have the mock draft coming out next Thursday. So we are like loaded with content. And oh, by the way, we're trying to get like 400 plus evaluations done so we can print the book and be ready for our draft plans. And pretty soon we're going to be breaking news on where we're going to be, what we're going to be doing for the actual NFL draft. And I'm really excited about it, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Thank you for downloading, subscribing, liking. Mensch is going to be my hype, our hype guy and beggar.
Work on it.
Moving forward. But thank you. We'll be back on Thursday. So much more to get to with free agency and the top 100. So until then, have a great week. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in DC. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 1-800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York.